Hello everybody and welcome to my Florence, Italy travel vlog. This was from a trip that I recently went on with my dad, and Florence has been on my bucket list of destinations for a long time, so I'm super excited to share this with you. First thing that I saw in Florence was the Giunti Odeon, which is a famous bookstore slash cinema in Florence. I've seen this place all over social media and I knew I had to check it out. In addition to selling books, they do have movies and shorts and cartoons playing on the big screen all day long, and people can just hang out, play on their laptops while watching the film. We went to the Uffizi Gallery. Now in the Uffizi Gallery you are not allowed to take videos, so I only have pictures for you here, but the Uffizi Gallery is an art museum that I have wanted to go to for a very long time, particularly to see their works by the Italian artist Botticelli, including the very famous painting The Birth of Venus, which you will see here in a second. This has been another thing that I've really wanted to do for a long time, and I honestly could have spent 5 hours in the Uffizi Gallery alone. It has so many rooms filled with art, and I honestly could have been there all day. To Europe, I love to visit churches because so many of these old European churches are absolutely beautiful, and there were several that I wanted to visit in Florence. The first one that we went to was the Basilica of Santa Croce. Unfortunately, there was some construction going on when we visited, but the reason that I wanted to go to Santa Croce is because it is home to the graves of several very famous historical figures. Santa Croce is the burial place of Galileo. The artist Michelangelo. Machiavelli, the author of The Prince. And the composer Rossini. It also has a chapel that was used by the Medici family, who were the de facto and then official rulers of Florence for centuries. Medici Chapel, which belonged to the Pazzi family, some of the Medici's greatest rivals, who will be brought up again later in this video. Next, we visited the Piazza della Signoria and the Palazzo Vecchio. The Palazzo Vecchio was originally where the leaders of the Republic of Florence would meet back when it was a democracy, and then once the Medici became the Grand Dukes of Tuscany, the rulers of Florence, Cosimo I, the first Grand Duke, moved himself, his wife, and his family into the Palazzo Vecchio. That's when it achieved its current name, which translates to the Old Palace, because Cosimo would later abandon the Palazzo Vecchio for a new home, making it the Old Palace. These rooms are meant to honor prominent members of the Medici family, including Cosimo the Elder, who helped centralize the family's power, and his grandson, who was later known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, or Il Magnifico in Italian. Next to this image of Lorenzo the Magnificent, you can see the Medici family crest, which kind of looks like little medicine balls. The name Medici actually comes from the same root as the word medicine, and it's believed that before the Medici became bankers, potentially centuries before, they could have been doctors or involved in some sort of medical trade, hence how they got their surname. Some of the Medici family's former apartments upstairs, and many of the rooms were designed with different themes from the Bible or mythology. If you look at this piece here, you can see that it spells out Eleonora, which was the name of Cosimo I's wife, Eleonora of Toledo. Of course, visiting Florence, we had to visit Il Duomo, Santa Maria del Fiore, which is just so stunning on the outside. Though the line to get in was really long, it did move fairly fast. I think it only took about 15 to 20 minutes to get inside. The famous dome was designed by Brunelleschi, who is actually buried inside the cathedral today. The Duomo was where the Pazzi conspiracy took place. Remember the Pazzi from earlier? The Pazzi were the chief rivals of the Medici, and they staged a plan to overthrow Lorenzo the Magnificent, who was the de facto leader of the city during this time. They planned to assassinate Lorenzo and his brother during Mass. Though they did succeed in killing Giuliano, the brother of Lorenzo, Lorenzo escaped, and everything fell apart in the aftermath of their plan. They planned on the common people supporting the overthrow, but actually the common people supported the Medici. Those who had taken part in the plot were executed, while all other Pazzi men were banished from the city, and a marriage ban was placed so that people would not be able to marry Pazzi women or girls. The next day, we went to the Galleria della to see Florence's most famous piece of art, the statue of David. This museum was actually designed with the sole purpose of being able to fit David. Before the museum was constructed, the statue was actually in the Piazza della Signoria. David by Michelangelo is 17 feet tall. Michelangelo constructed it between 1501 and 1504 for the Republic of Florence, as David was a symbol of the Republic. I personally find the history of the Medici family very interesting, so I wanted to visit all of their former homes in Florence. We went to the Palazzo Medici Riccardi, which is where the Medici lived before they became the Grand Dukes of Tuscany, and then later several other families inhabited it, including the Riccardis. This chapel inside the Palazzo Medici Riccardi was honestly one of the most beautiful things that I saw on this trip. Next, we visited the Basilica of San Lorenzo. This church claims to be the oldest in Florence and was the parish church of the Medici family. Originally, I wanted to visit this church because I wanted to see the crypt of the Medici family, though I didn't realize that while the Medici Chapels are technically part of the Basilica complex, they are separate tickets from the Basilica proper. The old sacristy, this part of the church here, was designed by Brunelleschi, who also designed the Duomo, with decorative details by the Renaissance artist Donatello. The dome in this room is inspired by the astrological signs. Medici Chapels were built in the 16th and 17th centuries as an extension of the Basilica of San Lorenzo. This room, the Chapel of the Princes, was designed to hold the tombs of the Grand Dukes of Tuscany, and it was stunning. The beautiful gold dome, it was one of the most beautiful things that I saw. sacristy was designed in 1520 by the artist Michelangelo. This room holds the tombs of Lorenzo the Magnificent, his brother Giuliano, Giuliano de' Medici, Duke of Nemours, and also Lorenzo de' Medici, Duke of Urbino, who was the father of the future Queen of France, Catherine de' Medici. Other members of the family are buried in a circular room, including many of the wives and children. Another room holds some members of the House of Lorraine who took over the Grand Duchy of Tuscany from the Medici family, though only one Lorraine Grand Duke is actually buried here. Their graves are near the grave of Cosimo the Elder, the father of the fatherland. Finally, we visited the Pitti Palace, located across the river. This is the palace that Cosimo, the first Grand Duke of Tuscany, and his family moved to after they left the Palazzo Vecchio. The Pitti Palace includes several art galleries. You can also buy separate tickets to tour the gardens and the private royal apartments. I saw more beautiful ceilings than I ever have in my entire life. It's honestly a miracle that I didn't end up with neck pain from constantly looking up at the beautiful painted and gilded ceilings. It is wild to think that there used to be people who lived like this, who were so surrounded by art and beauty every day, people who were so wealthy that they could hire these people who are now known as some of the greatest artists in human history to create commissions for them. When Napoleon Bonaparte was trying to conquer Europe, he lived in the Pitti Palace for a time, and this was apparently his very fancy bathroom. He just casually had marble statues next to his bathtub, as one does. Pitti Palace also had a museum of historical fashion included in the entry ticket price. I loved this because I am a history lover who's very interested in historical fashion, learning more about that. So I was so happy throughout my entire visit to this little museum. And you best believe that I took photos of every single 1920s and 1930s dress they had on display because I am writing a series of historical mysteries set in the 1930s, and I wanted to have some actual historic fashion inspiration just in case, I ever need to describe somebody's outfit in a future book. The Pitti Palace also has a gallery of modern art, though when they say modern art, they do not mean modern artists like Picasso or artists from that era. By modern, they mean like 1800s. Yes, I suppose that when you live in the birthplace of the Renaissance, art from the 1800s is sort of modern by comparison. is going to be the end of our video today, everyone. I had so much fun visiting Florence and Rome as well, so I hope that you enjoyed watching these travel vlogs. I love making these for you guys so you can enjoy them and I can remember my travels. Make sure to hit like if you enjoyed and subscribe for more. I love and appreciate you all. Have a nice day.